Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to today's show. It's going to be my saga with Sherri Papini. And pretty much, I think the name of it is just going to be, Hey, Sherri, don't blame me. That's simple. Okay? Everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That's very important. And also, I've gotten a lot of feedback. Thank you so much. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from all of you on my book, Discovering Lazarus, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly, How I Kicked Drug Addiction, Became a Counselor, a Psychotherapist, and a Profiler. So again, thanks to all of you for your great comments, for purchasing the book, and you can buy it wherever fine books are sold. With all that being said, my history with Sherri Papini, going back to 2016. 2016 came around, Sherri Papini disappeared, and a bunch of magazines got a hold of me and wanted to know what I thought about her disappearance. And not only her disappearance, but when she was found approximately, I think it's 22, 23 days after she disappeared. Daily Mail article says that Sherri Papini disappeared on November 2nd, 2016, and ran off to go jogging, okay? I'm pretty sure, and we'll double check here, that she reappeared for Thanksgiving. But she was gone. And when she came back, she said she was kidnapped. Some of the magazines that got a hold of me were People Magazine, The Sun, Inside Edition, to name a few. This was a pretty crazy time, because after I analyzed her disappearance and analyzed her return and the whole case, a lot of people got angry at me. They didn't like what I came up with. They didn't like that I didn't believe Sherri was telling the truth. Supposedly at the time she got kidnapped by two Spanish women with a gun. That's what she told the cops later on when she returned. Supposedly they took her to a hideout somewhere, and she had a blindfold on. Funny thing is that she said, they kept her blindfolded and she couldn't see anybody for the extent of her captivity, which would have been 20-some days, which to me was kind of ludicrous. And that really threw a wrench in her story as far as I was concerned. Not as far as a lot of other people were, because again, I caught a lot of hell over this story from people that said I was not sensitive and how could I come up and call her a liar. She also said before they put her in the car, these two Spanish women, she had time to put her earbuds and her cell phone in a neat little package on a trail where she was jogging, because that's where she said she got grabbed and kidnapped while she was out for a jog, for her husband to find. And certainly he did. He went right to that place on the trail, and there, neatly on the ground, was her earbuds and her phone. Now, that's another red flag for me, because if two people accost you and they're showing up with a gun and they're going to quickly jam you into a car, they want to do it as quick as possible, they're not going to give you time to stray or put your earbuds down in a nice, clean way, or put a neat package together with your cell phone, because they're going to be scared you're going to bolt, you're going to take off. So usually when you get grabbed in a situation like that, they're going to grab you, your earbuds, and your cell phone, and maybe get rid of your cell phone later so they can't be tracked. But they're not going to spend a whole lot of time in the abduction zone waiting for you to be nice and neat in what you're doing. Not going to spend that time there. Then she said that she was kept in this hideout that these two girls, or two women, took her to for approximately 3 weeks. Like I said, 20-some days. And then she reappears. Here it is on Thanksgiving Day. She is seen running down a highway, and this is on Thanksgiving. She's seen running down a highway in Woodland, California, with ropes and chain restraints dangling off her. She's got ropes on her, she got chains on her, and she's moving. I saw the video. She's running. She's trying to get away from somebody, it certainly appears. There's no question about it. So anyway, she says she got away. The cops caught up with her. And when the cops stopped her and tried to help her and, put her in the car to try and to take her to a hospital, I'm sure, she reports to the cops that she was in captivity and she was being beaten, bruised, she was branded, and also had her hair cut and her nose broke. Now, this is this poor woman, little woman, running down the road, with all this happening to. Again, we're talking about, her nose broke. We're talking about her being beaten, bruised, having her hair cut, being branded, and she's got these chains and ropes hanging off her. Okay? Pretty rough stuff, right? Think, well, who the hell had this girl? How'd she get away? She's lucky to be alive. And I'm on the record saying that she was lucky to be alive. She also says her kidnappers, while in captivity, there was no sexual activity from her kidnappers. So, of course, that is another red flag that jumps out at me, because why did they abduct you? Okay, you didn't have any money on you, so it wasn't about the money. You didn't seem to have anybody after you for any particular reason. Nobody seemed to have a vendetta against you. So, it didn't seem to be any kind of vengeance-related situation. And you're saying it wasn't sexual. So what was the payoff? What was the upside payoff of taking you for the downside risk? Because you're saying these kidnappers didn't even want anything to do with you sexually. So, that was another red flag. I mean, what was the motive for grabbing this poor woman off the trails that was just out for a run and jogging? And it's going to be interesting as we pursue this. She also says the kidnappers starved her while she was in captivity. And again, there was no sexual activity. That was 6 years ago. Now fast forward to 2022. See, what happened is the cops, who did a very good job here, have ended up finding DNA. And they ended up finding male DNA. Okay, now where would they find male DNA? Because, she says she didn't have any sexual activity with anybody when she was in captivity. Well, guess what? The cops found sperm DNA, and it was found on her panties, on Sherri's panties. Okay, so we've got male sperm DNA on Sherri's panties. This is all these years later now, you must understand. 6 years later, this is, after I got written up and bashed a little bit for calling her a liar. This was, again, great work by the police, as I said. And by tracking down the DNA, tracing the DNA back, cops did some great work and they came up with an old ex-boyfriend. Surprising, huh? Who was an ex-hockey player by the name of Mr. James Reyes. James told the police that this was really all Sherri's idea. She wanted to get away from her husband and that she was being abused at her house. He said he was only doing what a good friend would do when the cops started to question him. He said as Papini stayed there at his house, he saw her causing self-inflicted injuries. Hell of a friend here, including hitting herself to create many bruises and burning herself on the arms. Now, that's the kind of friend you really want, right? And he's, sit back and he's only doing what a good friend would do, watch you torture yourself. However, Mr. Reyes did admit helping Sherri create some of her injuries. This is interesting. Although he said he never laid a hand on her. He never laid a hand on her. For instance, she told him to shoot her in the leg with a pellet gun. That was okay. Not laying a hand on her, right? He's a good friend. He also said he branded Papini with a branding tool she asked him to purchase and then to brand her. He said the tool was so hot it glowed red. But she never complained about the pain. Hell of a guy here. Anyway, Mr. Reyes told investigators that this might sound pretty bland, but they really just talked and there was no sex. He slept in one bed, she slept in another bed. I think he slept on a couch. To be honest with you, he gave up his bed to her or whatever. In fact, she wanted privacy, so he went and he put wood over the windows so nobody could look in and see her. So she was actually like in her own little dungeon, if you will, or fort or whatever you want to call it, bunk, we'll say. She had her own private bunk that nobody could look in and see her. He also talked about, again, there being no sex. Well, Mr. Reyes, if there was no sex, how come we have your sperm on her panties? Okay, I mean, this doesn't sound too kosher to me. What about that sperm they found on her panties, Mr. Reyes? It's yours. He said she also ate, only to starve herself so she'd look emaciated for when she went home. Again, I guess good friends can just do your bidding and stand by and watch you starve yourself. This whole case is like really, really, really out of this world. And he said he came home from work one day and saw that Sherri had chopped her hair off and broken her nose. Pretty self-destructive. That's what he came home after work to find. Her with that beautiful hair chopped off and a broken nose. That's interesting. I guess she broke it herself, huh? Reyes said it was only when he saw the intense media coverage of Papini coming home that he started to panic. You see, because when she was found on that Thanksgiving, I mean, everybody went absolutely, positively wild because so many people were afraid that she had met her demise. After all, she was gone from her family, her husband, her kids, and, for well over 2 weeks. This was 20-some days, so, this her return did not look good. Remember, stranger abductions are really very, very horrifying situations because usually a victim only lasts for 3 to 4 hours, 70% of the time in a stranger abduction. Well, here's Sherri back after 3 weeks. Yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting indeed. The Merck manual defines, before I forget, Mr. Reyes also said, I mentioned that he started to panic when she got home and when all the publicity started and took place, and he saw the news on her. It was all over the TV. Everybody saw it. Then he turns around and he says he never came forward to the police because he was afraid they would think he did something wrong. How about that? Do you think? He never came forward to the police because they think he did something wrong. Yeah, I think so too. Well, anyway, the Merck manual defines sexual masochism. And before I get to this point here, this part here, I want to make a point. The point I want to make is that they're still trying to find out today, right till today, all these years later, what Sherri's motive was. What was Sherri's real motive? Okay? So now let's take a look at masochism. The Merck manual defines sexual masochism disorder as involving various acts where a person experiences sexual excitement from being beaten, bound, humiliated, or otherwise abused. We talked about sexual masochism. I also think we should be talking about sadism or sadism. Okay, what exactly is sadism? The Oxford Dictionary says sadism is the tendency to derive pleasure, especially sexual gratification. See, both of these have this sexual component to them. The tendency to derive pleasure, especially sexual gratification, this is sadism, from inflicting pain, suffering, or the humiliation on another. Now it seems, Sherri had, a lot of pain inflicted on her. To me, looks like she would have been suffering from all those bruises, beatings, and broken nose, branded. And I think it was humiliating, or had to be humiliating in some way. Maybe not to her. I don't know. So we have this masochism disorder that has a sexual connotation to it, and we have the sadism that also has sexual connotation to it. So it all sounds pretty familiar here. It's really had to be some rendezvous these two had, getting together. They were old boyfriend and girlfriend having a rendezvous and catching up after all these years. Sounds pretty crazy. But everybody is baffled by what her motive was. This is the way this whole thing is up to date right now. What was the motive? But what do you guys think? Tell me what you think the motive was. That's what's important. I want to hear from you guys. Okay? What do you think about this masochism? What do you think about the sadism? What do you think about the sexual connotation between both? What do you think really happened here? I don't know what we can believe and what we can't, but we certainly don't know what a motive is, or what the motive was. I'm sorry. Most importantly, I want to thank you all very much for putting up with me today in this old case. It takes me back 6 years. Finally, my theory was cleared on she was lying. I felt somebody else, though, in all honesty, and maybe they did, I don't know, was involved with her sexual abuse, and but she said she wasn't sexually abused, so. But I believe somebody else was involved with her physical abuse, although, you know, the word is out there now she inflicted all this on herself. So I felt somebody really abused her and tortured her, but I never thought it would be herself. But I felt she was lying, and I caught hell because, that's the way I profiled it. So it is what it is, and I was right, and I'm glad it was proven all these years later, although I am sorry for all the victims, and I mean all the victims, that this case produced. It's pretty sad stuff. So again, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. Make it a great day. Stay healthy out there. And till next time, again, God bless you. Take care.